The Reds had two important individual breakthroughs in their series loss to the Rangers. We'll tell you why the breakthroughs mean big things for the Reds the rest of the way on today's Locked On Reds.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily source for all things Cincinnati Reds. I'm Stephen Offenbaker. He's Jeff Carr. We love baseball. We love these Cincinnati Reds, and we have taken our love of the game. We've taken our love for this team, and we have turned it into information for you. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And on today's show, today's podcast, we are going to be talking about breakouts as both Hunter Greene, yes, that Hunter Greene had a breakout of a performance, and so did Jonathan India. They both had big breakouts deep in the heart of Texas. It's time to maybe also be worried about a member of the Cincinnati Reds. We're going to be talking Jeimer Candelario, and at least one of us thinks it might be time to be just a little bit worried about the Reds off-season pickup. Also, another one-run loss in Texas yesterday. It makes you wonder if this Reds team can win the one-run games. We're going to spend some time talking about that coming up. Before I get into any of that, though, let's shout out the sponsor of today's episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets back guaranteed. That's $150 whether your first bet wins or loses. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, Jeff, where we're going to get started are with these two breakout performances. And first of all, before we even get into that, I just want to say that I've had an amazing weekend down here in Dallas, Jeff, down here in Arlington at Globe Life Park. That stadium is fun. It's very quirky. The dimensions are quirky. The sight lines are quirky. The food is fantastic. The beer is really, really good. And it's a great place to watch a ball game, even if it is inside with a roof, which I don't normally like. Had a great time, and I got to see a couple big breakout performances. I got to see live with my own eyes Hunter Greene go 7 innings and only allow 1 hit. And I also got to see live with my own eyes a 4-for-4 with 4 RBIs, including a homer performance from one former Rookie of the Year, Jonathan India.
8 hits total on the weekend for Jonathan India. He likes Globe Life Park as well. And I got to admit, I was down there in February, is before the season starts, obviously. And I played a game of cornhole outside Globe Life Park. Played my best game of cornhole that I ever had. So maybe there's something to that field down there, but there wasn't for the Reds. They lose 2 out of 3 in the series. But I think the most important thing from this weekend was not the series loss. It was the fact that Hunter Greene pitched like we think he should, and Jonathan India is back. Because 3 games does not a season make, but 3 games, a little bit ease on our minds does it accomplish, because Jonathan India up to this point was not having problems getting on base. He was walking well. His on base percentage was almost 33% of the time he was almost getting on base. It's just he was batting $160. And you're like, what gives? But this weekend he really showed the bat is still there. I was very happy to see, especially on Saturday, him just take over the game and give the Reds the win from the plate. And then Hunter Greene on the other side on the mound, man, 7 beautiful innings and held the Rangers just to 1 hit. I was very pleased with how that outing went. That is ace stuff.
No, absolutely. And listen, some people have been coming at me in the comment section, Jeff.
I know you must hate that performance.
I must hate that performance. I must be so upset that Hunter did well. No, I don't dislike Hunter Greene. This Hunter Greene, the Hunter Greene that I got to watch again with my own eyes on Saturday, that's the Hunter Greene I want every single time. That's the Hunter Greene we've been waiting to show up, been waiting to be. If he can be that guy all the time, I won't have anything bad to say about Hunter Greene. I stand by what I've said thus far. I think I've been very fair and very balanced with what I've said about Hunter Greene. And if he's going to be this guy versus that other guy I was talking about, the sky's the limit. And we can start talking about him being an ace of the staff. But he's got to be that guy consistently that he was on Saturday. And that's what we're going to be looking for. But man, I was so happy to get to watch that live. I mean, he was just tunneling, just dotting that ball in there. And for Jonathan India, it looked like he was seeing beach balls. when the pitchers
Yeah.
were throwing the ball up there. Like there was nothing fooling Jonathan India on Saturday or Sunday, really.
No, and he was not a reason that the Reds were unable to score on Sunday. It was just there wasn't a whole lot of consistency around him. And Hunter Greene probably was the biggest fan of Jonathan India on Saturday because this was the first game that Hunter Greene left the game, was relieved in the game, and he left with the Reds scoring more than 2 runs. So that kind of goes to the sample size as well, and the frustrations that we've seen from him so far is that not only is his pitching not up to what the expectation is for a guy like Hunter Greene, but he wasn't getting any help either. He got a lot of help on Saturday, and the fact that he was able to pitch with that big a lead and he was just so fantastic on Saturday, there were a lot of folks that were like, what's different? What'd you change? This is what he had to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not a different approach other than just filling up the zone, just competing and trusting my pitches. I haven't done like a complete 360 on what I was doing last year. I think it's just just trusting myself, being able to attack the zone. In the past, it's really just been me who's beaten me. There's obviously games where I've faced good teams that hit and put the runs up, but a lot of the games, just kind of watching myself in my outings, a lot of the times I'm beating myself. And not trusting myself on just attacking the zone. So I think when you attack the zone, great things happen.
I got the chance to talk with Jeff Gilbert. He's the beat writer for the Dayton Dragons on the Dayton Daily News, and he said that even when Hunter was in Dayton, he was saying the words, "Gotta trust my stuff." And I think what that really means is he has come up all his entire life with this crazy awesome fastball that he could just get by a guy. If he needed to get out of an at-bat, he could just get it by a guy. Well, you can't do that in Major League Baseball. And so he has, had to trust the other stuff. And I think that if he said that, it would resonate a little bit more with Reds fans if he said, I got to trust the other stuff. Because trusting his stuff means he can't just fall back on old number one every single time he gets into a little bit of trouble. And I think that was a big factor for him on Saturday.
Yeah, see, while I'm saying this next part, see if you can pull up his pitch mix from Saturday. I wanna see if there's any difference in that. But one of the things, I like the swagger from him, because I feel like in these other starts that he's had this season, especially the ones that didn't really go well, or the ones where he struggled and only made it through 4 or 5 innings, I feel like he lacked a little bit of that swagger, like the confidence, even though he wasn't going to come right out and say the confidence was shook. The confidence was shook. And I think that really the heart of this matter is we've heard people say, well, what's taken him so long to learn a third pitch? It's been 3 years. And I've said that too. It's been 3 years. Why isn't he using his third pitch? I don't think at this point that it's a matter of him learning it or not. He's got these pitches. We saw them in spring training. We saw several new pitches in spring training, or several different pitches in spring training. It's about the confidence to throw them in a Major League Baseball game that matters. And I think after that last bad outing, the one where I ripped him and now everybody thinks that I hate Hunter Greene, and the one where a lot of the people covering Hunter Greene ripped him because it was not a good outing. It was not good for pitch efficiency. It was not good for results. It was not good for the length that he stayed in the game. I think after that game, he may have had a little heart-to-heart with himself. And I think maybe Derek Johnson and the powers that be maybe had a heart-to-heart with him as well, because he's been a different guy the 2 starts since then, at least as far as being pitch efficient and making it to 6-7 innings, back-to-back 7-inning outings now.
Maybe trust his stuff means locate the fastball more. 72% fastball usage on Saturday. He threw 1 splitter. He had 27% slider usage, but that was it. There was no curveball. There was 1 splitter. So that's an intriguing thing for me, because I've said, locating the fastball is the first step toward trusting his other pitches. Maybe we see more of that, but that's the least amount of either pitch. I think that's the least amount of the slider that we've seen as well. And it seems like he kind of went back on that, but he had a great outing. You can't really argue with the results, and the fact that he was able to do it by not throwing his secondary stuff is a little bit intriguing on that. I wonder if he can trust
I
that.
think there's some more to unpack there. When I get home, Jeff, when I get back off of this trip, I'm going to sit down with the numbers because there's a couple points I think I might want to make. I need to see if the numbers support them or not first. So we'll circle back around on Hunter Greene later this week because I think there's more to say there. And as far as Jonathan India goes, let's talk about him for just a second before we get out of this segment. I think that he's going to go on a heater. We've been waiting. Yeah. We've been waiting to see him break out a little bit. And you're right. The on base has been something different than what the batting average says. But I think we're going to see him putting that ball in play. He really did look like a guy that was seeing beach balls, and it's just the right time. This Reds offense is in search of somebody to be the engine that drives it. In the offseason, I said that was going to be Matt McLain. We all thought that was going to be Matt McLain. In the absence of Matt McLain, they've kind of been waiting for someone to seize upon that role and be that guy. I think right now, Jonathan India could be that guy, at least over the next few weeks. He's going to catch, if he catches a heater like I think he's going to, it's just the right time to help drive this Reds offense through this murderous schedule that's coming up.
I think that he was downloading pitch information this first month of the season. It felt like there was like a million strikeouts looking, a lot of backward Ks on his box scores up until this weekend, and then he just started swinging. And I think if he continues to get these good swings on the ball, we're going to see a lot more of this. I'm not saying he's going to go 4 for 4 every night, but I mean 2 for 4, get a multi-hit game in there. You're going to add in some walks and stuff. He's going to be a very dangerous guy. We'll be talking about him pushing for a spot at the top of the lineup back here again very, very soon. But for me, and I get it, and we'll talk about the series loss here in just a minute. The Reds lose 2 out of 3 to the Texas Rangers, but it was the breakout for Hunter Greene and for Jonathan India that really stood out to me. And I think that coming up next, it definitely pales in comparison with the weekend that Jeimer Candelario had. Ooh. And one of us is worried about him, and one of us isn't. We'll tell you who coming up next. This Mother's Day, get something thoughtful for mom on DoorDash. Surprise her from wherever you are with fresh bouquets, the latest tech, gift cards, self-care treats, and more to make her day that much better. Use code LOCKEDONMLB and you'll get 50% off your next order up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order on DoorDash. Pair flowers with a gift card so she can celebrate any way she wants. Is she a bookworm? Try a Bookstore gift card. Does she love a good latte? Get her the gift of her favorite copy shop. You can't go wrong. Plus, you get the convenience of shopping on your phone, so you don't have to be the one scrambling, driving around to whatever store's open, and maybe they're going to have something that your mom might even happen to like. Trust me, I've been there. Sorry, Mom. It was a long time ago. Order now and get everything you need for Mother's Day on DoorDash. Use code LOCKEDONMLB to get 50% off your next order, up to $15, when you spend $15 or more on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order, now on DoorDash. That's Locked On MLB. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply.
We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard is not looking good. Now you're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep. You lift your head up and you say to yourself, it's time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. That's right. The smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone, anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much you can do. You can play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball, charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there. Put on your game face and download Monopoly Go for free in the App Store or on Google Play. That's Monopoly Go for free on the App Store or Google Play.
You know, Locked On's got this beautiful 24/7 streaming channel called Locked On Sports Today. You should subscribe to it now on YouTube or on the Amazon Fire TV channels app that's free. by the way, because it brings you your news and your sports opinions and takes every single day. It's programmed for you. That way you can enjoy sports talk at its finest. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis and news and opinions. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And coming up on the next Locked On Reds podcast for all everydayers out there, Fernando Cruz or Alexis Diaz? Who is the best relief pitcher on the Reds?
Ooh.
The answer may or may not surprise you. All right, Steve. Jeimer Candelario had quite the weekend this weekend. I don't know. Like, worry? I don't think, and there's a lot of folks that are like, I'm done with him. I don't think either one of us are done with him. But where you at when it comes to worrying about Jeimer Candelario?
I'm pretty worried. Over the weekend, 0 for 8 with 7 strikeouts down here against the Texas Rangers. But beyond that, he's not having a great season. Just a quick look in 23 games. That's 82 at bats for the Reds this year, Jeff. His slash line is 159, 263, 317. We wanted him to come in and be, part of this big infield. And we were so excited that he was a switch hitter and he didn't have, his splits said he could play against righties or lefties. It's true. His splits are the same against righties and lefties right now, and they're both bad. They're terrible. Now, there's going to be a crowd, and probably including you, that's going to come at me with the word small sample size. And they're going to talk to me about what he's done over his career. Major League Baseball is very much a what have you done for me lately kind of league. And right now, he's not done a whole lot for us lately or ever. Part of the problem, there's an increased amount of expectation and pressure on him to perform, given the injuries that the Reds suffered after they signed him, and the fact that he was given a pretty big money deal in comparison to what this team hands out normally, and expected to come in here and do a thing. And he hasn't done it yet. Now, I am willing to concede it is a smallish sample size for this season. I'm not ready to pull the plug on Jeimer Candelario. I'm not calling for the Reds to release him or find a way to get him onto the injured list and get rid of him or any of those things. But I am concerned. I am concerned that he hasn't really turned that corner yet, and he hasn't been consistent at all. So put me in the camp of, level yellow concerned about Jeimer Candelario.
Let me show you this. We're going to do a thing, and I like doing this, and we're doing it a little bit more often than we used to, but blind resume. I'm going to show you a blind resume here. And you just said a couple of stats, so you might know player A. Player A has a 159 batting average with a 263 on base and a 317 slugging. That sounds familiar. I just can't pinpoint as to who. And then he has 2 home runs, and he's played 23 games. Player B, average 296, 385, 526 on the slugging. 385 is the on base. He has 3 homers, and this was in 26 games played. 26, so more games played, much higher average, almost double the average. On base percentage crazy high, slugging percentage crazy high, all this stuff. Player A, Jeimer Candelario. Mm-hmm. Do you know who player B is?
This feels like a trap. Is player B also Jeimer Candelario from another sample size?
Player B is Jeimer Candelario from last May. Last May, Jeimer Candelario. And by the way, last April, he wasn't very good either. He is a slow starter. And it's something that I've looked up, and I get it, the whole idea of, what is a slow starter? What does that mean? Let me tell you what it means. In Jeimer Candelario's career, he has 148 games played in April/March. He's got a 228 average, 308 on base, 360 slugging. He has stunk in the first month of the season. The rest of the year, it goes up. I mean, we're talking a 761 OPS in May. He's got a 750 OPS in July, 749, 792 in August and September. Like, he is a second half player. And this is what is a very interesting statistic about him, because he is the long haul type player. The reason that the Reds were bringing him in was not necessarily because he was going to be the everyday third baseman. He was conscripted into duty because of Noelvi Marte deciding to take performance enhancing drugs. he was going to be the guy that helps give everybody regular rest. Now, that probably means that he still would have gotten regular playing time in some way, shape, or form. But I think that the Reds understood that might have a slow start to him. But as the season goes along, as the weather warms up, so does Candelario. His career in 118 games in the month of May, 243 batting average, 322 on base, 439 slugging. We'll take that. We'll take that a lot better compared to what we have seen from Jeimer Candelario. I'm not saying he's been good, but I'm saying that he's probably going to be all right because the season's going to turn.
I hope that you're correct. I hope that this is the way it goes. I really, truly do. The fact of the matter is he's not hot right now. And I had a real problem with the Reds being in a situation to win the game, to rally Reds against the Rangers yesterday and possibly win this series. I had a problem with a couple things that went down there at the end. We'll another time talk about Ellie and his 8th inning bunting. We're not going to do that today.
Yeah.
But the other piece of this is Candelario, as I said, was already 0 for 4 on Friday with 3 strikeouts. Up until his final at bat yesterday, he was 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. I don't understand why he was sent out there to hit again with the Reds in a position to possibly steal this game. I don't know why you don't go with CES or Tyler Stevenson there, even though it was a right-handed pitcher on the mound. The Reds are telling us both those guys are fine after being hit by pitches yesterday. I don't know why, when a player is clearly struggling, when a player is clearly having difficulties, that David Bell, sometimes I think David Bell, kind of digs in and stomps his feet a little bit and is like, we're going to give our guy every opportunity when really you needed to make a move to help your team have an opportunity to win. So I have a problem with Candelario being run back out there in the 9th inning for that final strikeout. I would have pinch hit because he's not hot right now.
There's two competing things with this too, because if you look on Baseball Savant, some of the peripherals are not kind to him. He's got a very, very low average exit velocity right now. He has the highest strikeout percentage of his career. However, he also has the highest walk rate of his career. And as far as batting average on balls in play go, he's got a 234 batting average on balls in play, 65 points below league average. So things like that.
So you're going with unlucky Babbitt. Unlucky Babbitt. Is that what we're? I
don't love the strikeout percentage. No, I don't necessarily think that I'm chalking this up to unluckiness. I'm chalking it up to need more information for me to feel one way or the other. I don't think I'm not worried, but I'm also not confident. Is there somewhere in between? Is there like a uneasy middle there? Can I be in the middle? I think
you're claiming undecided, and that's perfectly
undecided.
Fine. I'll accept undecided. Let me ask you this before we get out of this conversation, Jeff, because I really quickly want to touch on a relief pitcher as well. But
yeah,
at what point do we stop saying this is a small sample size? End of May? Like where is the threshold for you need to prove it by such time?
For a relief pitcher.
No. We're still talking about Candelario.
I can be real annoying. Okay. Candelario Memorial Day. If he's still doing this by Memorial Day, I think they need to start thinking about contingency. And hopefully by that point we've got, no, it won't be. Marte's not going to be back till the end of June. So yeah, you're going to have to figure. I mean, and at that point, do we just run Candelario out there until you get something? Because there is nobody else in this organization. I'm not looking at AAA and thinking that Nick Gonzalez is going to come up here and all of a sudden make us forget about Jeimer Candelario. I think that it's more likely that he gets it back than anyone else in this organization supplants him before Noelvi Marte comes back.
One more guy I wanted to ask you about, because we were talking about small sample sizes and talking about players should we be worried about. Emilio Pagan just hasn't looked the part, and I don't really even have a specific stat that I want to point to, but just having now watched him pitch live a few times this year, it's an eye test thing for me. And it's a feeling thing for me. I don't feel confident when he comes into a game. I don't feel like, this is a guy that can come in and shut down the opposing hitters. I think he's walking too many guys. I think his pitches don't look sharp. I know he got a bit of a late start. Are you worried at all about him? Because when the Reds first signed him, we were very excited to be getting him. And I don't feel like has quite lived up to it just yet.
I feel the eye test thing. I do. I'm going to give you a stat that's going to make you feel really good, though.
Okay.
I know he had 2 walks yesterday, so that's going to bump this up a little bit. He has less than 2 walks per 9 this season.
Oh, yeah,
that's
my magic number.
he's walking 4.6% of the batters that he faces. He's right around league average with a strikeout rate, 25%. And he's gotten unlucky on the homer to fly ball rate. It's a little bit high there. The problem is he's not giving up ground balls, and that's kind of been his career MO, is that he's more of a fly ball pitcher, and that's going to be tough where he plays now, because you've kind of got to be a ground ball pitcher at Great American Ballpark. I don't think I'm worried about him. I just think that he might not necessarily be like a closer 1B or 1C, like maybe our optimistic side of our brain thought whenever the Reds added him, but I still think that he adds a lot of talent to this bullpen. I don't necessarily think that I cringe whenever they call on him, but I'm definitely not as excited about seeing his name come up other than instead of like Fernando Cruz or Alexis Diaz or Lucas Sims or something like that. I'm not worried about Emilio Pagan.
All right. Well, with that being said, and me being a little bit worried, one run losses, they're tough, Jeff. We had one yesterday. I don't like them. They're heartbreaking. They're frustrating.
I am worried about that.
Coming up, let's ask the question, can this Reds team win these 1-run games? We're going to talk about that next. Head on over to FanDuel right now, because FanDuel is where the action is at. It is America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers are going to get $150 in bonus bets back, guaranteed. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. That's $150. If you're new, whether your parlay wins or not, whether your first bet wins or not, you're going to get that $150 in your bank account if this is your first time playing over at FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. And there's some interesting action over there right now. The Reds head out to San Diego, opening a series with the Padres. It's going to be an interesting one. The over-under on that game's 8 runs. And I think I would go with the over. What we've seen from these Cincinnati Reds is that they're streaky. They have a great game, which they had on Saturday. They have a not so great game, which they had yesterday. That lines them up for a great game out in San Diego. 8 runs, take the over. You'll be glad you did. And even if they don't hit it, you're a new player at FanDuel, you're going to get that $150 back in bonus bets, guaranteed. Just head to FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook and the official sportsbook of Locked On. You can catch every pitch of the Reds' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Reds. Also, bookmark si.com/MOB/Reds for written content about your Cincinnati Reds. Jeff's writing over there. I'm writing over there from time to time. James Rapine, Caleb Sisk, Audie Elmore, Rick Uccino. The list goes on and on. Make sure you bookmark that site as well. All right, Jeff, 1-run games. This team seems to struggle. You know, they either blow it wide open or they're playing rally Reds. Not the holder of a 1-game lead from, say the 3rd inning on. We don't see that Reds team very often.
Right. Yeah, and this team's going to be very interesting because, and I said this off air to you, I would almost put in a wager that the Reds are not going to win any 1-0 ball games this year. I think they're going to need to score. They need to score at least 4 runs in a game to feel really good about that game. And right now, in 1-run ball games, the Reds are 1-4. Last year, the Reds finished the season 34-29. What'd they do differently from last year? Not really anything. I mean, their bullpen's the same. Better. It's better. It's got more talent, but it's not worse. So it's not as if the bullpen is the problem. The lineup, kind of the same. You're missing some key guys there, but it just feels like they're like stuck in these 1-run scenarios. And the whole 1-4 thing, Steve, and really the winning ways about it last year, there's one explanation for it. And to be quite honest with you, most people are going to say that this is an insufficient explanation, but it's the explanation. They got lucky last year. Luck might not be on their side this year.
Okay, that's not wrong. They did get lucky a lot last year. But the big difference this year over last year is the hits that this lineup took before the season even got underway. The ability to come back, the ability to scratch out a one-run win is greatly hampered by the fact that instead of Matt McLain and Noelvi Marte, we've got Stuart Fairchild and whatever other body we can shoehorn in there at any given time. So that is a big difference. That is having Will Benson and Jake Fraley both play against lefties, which has worked some and has worked not as often as you would like for it to work. So there are differences offensively with this team and their ability to get something going in a timely fashion right when you need it. I think the team that we see when August rolls around will be greatly different than the team we're seeing right now. Having TJ Friedel in that leadoff spot is going to make a big difference for this Reds team. Having Matt McLain insert himself back into this lineup, we hope late August, early September will make a big difference for a playoff push. Having Noelvi Marte for half the season to help get this team to the point when Matt McLain comes back will make a difference, and then being able to do that. But you're right. It's a bullpen thing. It's a pitching thing. Can they hold a team 9 innings for a shutout? And can they get that timely home run? Can they scratch out that one run? I don't know. I think you're right. It would be very hard for this team to win a 1-0 game, at least right now, the way it's currently constructed.
And I've had multiple people ask me this, and I kind of love this question, but like, why do they have to be the Rally Reds? Why can't they score early and hold on to the lead and things like that? But it's the way that the game flows. It's how this lineup approaches the game. I mean, you see a lot more backwards Ks early on in the game, and then you see them swinging and hitting the ball late in the game. But there's also this element of just consistency that this team has not found yet. And you and I have talked about this, and you mentioned it in your FanDuel read. Like, they're very up and down when it comes to run scoring. And it's not even necessarily on certain days when guys pitch. It's just one day they score 8 or 9 or 10 runs, and then the next day they score 1 run or 2 runs or something like that. And I don't know that they're going to win too many games when they score 3 runs or less. That's just not the profile of this team.
And also, to your friend that asked you this question of why can't we? Have they never watched Cincinnati sports? We don't have nice things like that around here. That's not how
Who
we
wants
do
easy
things.
wins?
Who
needs
like
them?
even when the Bengals go to a
Who
Super
needs
Bowl,
them?
they get their asses kicked in the entire first half, and then they come back and do it. And the Reds,
Right.
they're not going to win right out of the gate. They're going to rally. They're going to make your heart work for it. That's just the way it is in Cincinnati.
And that's the biggest problem with the whole 1-run game things. It's something that's going to be fun to talk about all season long, but there isn't a manager on earth that if you were to ask them, what's your plan for a 1-run ball game? They're like, to win? Like, I mean, they don't change. It's not as if you
have
change.
the 1 run. My plan for the
Yeah,
1
to
run
be
ball game
1
is
run
to
ahead.
have the 1 run. Yeah.
Yeah, to be 1 run ahead. Well, what if you're 1 run behind? All right, let's score 2, 3, 4, 7 more runs. You know, I would like to score more runs. That there's not like a different way of playing baseball. There's not a different strategy to winning 1-run games as opposed to winning other games. It's just kind of a fun talking point for us to really harp on. But for the most part, I mean, this team, it's going to be fine at the end of the day. There's going to be some weird stats like this. I don't necessarily know that it's going to be super one way or the other. Like, I think, what was it? I think it was like the 2019 team, which didn't actually do anything, but in 2019, they had a really high win percentage in 1-run ball games, but that was a losing team. So there's a point where this is a fun conversation, but it's not something that I'm going to put a lot of energy behind because it's not going to affect the team that much.
And that is probably a great spot to go ahead and wrap it up for today. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Reds. Thanks, as always, for making us your first listen every day. Every day is coming up on the next episode of the show. We're going to be talking about who is the best relief pitcher in this bullpen. Is it Alexis Diaz, Jeff Sky, or is it Fernando Cruz? Also Jeff Sky. Jeff's going to be in a tough spot. It's going to be an interesting conversation. The answer might surprise you. So make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you have the notification bell clicked. You're not going to miss that conversation, Jeff. What can the folks expect from us as we continue to press through this season?
They can expect us to be locked in on every pitch. They can expect us to be locked in on every rumor, every grumbling, every rumbling of a roster movement. And they can expect us to be locked on Reds every single day. By the way,
in the heart of Texas.
I like it. Bookends. I like it.